The Rohingya are often called the most persecuted minority in the world. 6 years ago, they had to flee their home country of Myanmar after a deadly military campaign that the United States government has called a genocide. Now, in the refugee camps of Bangladesh, they're being murdered. Hundreds have been killed by drug gangs and militants, and the violence is ongoing. UNHCR is paid tens of millions of dollars to run a protection program for refugees. But with Rohingya dying every week, is that protection program working? This is Kutupalong in Bangladesh, the largest refugee camp in the world. It's home to nearly 1 million Rohingya, a predominantly Muslim minority who've been persecuted in their home country of Myanmar for decades. Life in the camps is hard. Rations have been cut to $8 a month, employment is prohibited, and crime is rife. 5 Rohingya gangs now operate in the camps, and they're killing hundreds of their fellow refugees. At 1:30 a.m., we get reports of another murder. Entry to the camps is forbidden at night, but our team is just outside and have made contact with the victim's family. His name was Mohammed Yusuf. Nobi Hussein is a Rohingya drug gang that uses the camps to traffic methamphetamines from Myanmar to Bangladesh. As Mohammed's family wait for the body to be released, they tell us the gruesome details of how he was killed. With the gangs stalking the camps, it's too dangerous for refugees to speak openly about the violence. But this man has agreed to meet at a secret location. Mohammed Tahir was a community leader in Kutupalong's Camp 16. 2 years ago, gangs started smuggling drugs through his area. Tahir was blindfolded and taken to another location. On the final day, the gangsters attacked Tahir with a hammer and then left him in a ditch. His leg never recovered, and 2 years on, he's still getting death threats. Fearing for his life, Tahir says he approached UNHCR 10 times, asking to be relocated somewhere safe. They are the UN's refugee agency, and they have a unit dedicated to protection issues. Tahir says they've not responded. Tahir is not the only one who's been ignored by UNHCR.
My name is Mohibullah. I am a Rohingya genocide survivor.
Mohibullah is one of the most famous Rohingya activists. He was a teacher back in Myanmar, but emerged as a community leader after arriving in Bangladesh. He set up a human rights organization and also campaigned for the Rohingyas' safe return to Myanmar.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Hi.
So I am a Rohingya from Bangladesh refugee camp. So most of the Rohingya refugees are willing to go back home as quickly as possible. So what is a plan to help us?
Mohib's lawyer, Eva Buzo, says his pursuit of international justice posed a threat to the armed gangs operating in the camps.
You know, there is a dominance of armed groups and these actors who want to achieve their political goals through violent means. And Mohib was the antithesis of that.
He was shot dead in September 2021. It was a major blow to the Rohingya community, with tens of thousands coming out for his funeral. Mohib knew the gangs were planning to kill him, so he wrote to UNHCR asking for protection, but no measures were put in place.
I would describe UNHCR's attitude as indifferent. They always did what they could to discredit him and say, who does he think he is? He's just a teacher. One protection officer described him as a malicious character to me. Another one called him an effing idiot to me. You know, that they really didn't like Mohib.
UNHCR has an explicit remit to protect refugees, and it asks donor governments to provide $32 million a year in order to fund its protection program.
I had a conversation with UNHCR after Mohib's murder where I said, you know, this is going to have a chilling effect on human rights activists within the Rohingya community, that Mohib had these protection risks that went unmet. And the UNHCR protection person said to me point blank, well, if speaking out on these issues causes protection risks, then they should stop speaking out about these issues.
Alhamdulillah, Arkan Rohingya Salvation Army. Alhamdulillah, Arkan Rohingya Salvation Army.
The gang most often accused of committing violence in the camps is the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, better known as ARSA. They emerged in 2016 and claimed to be revolutionaries that are fighting for the rights of Rohingya in Myanmar. Our team has made contact with a former member of the group who we're calling Ahmed. He says the group used to be genuine freedom fighters, but things changed when the Rohingya were forcibly displaced to Bangladesh.
Beshi kinamboleho gorifor halotot washahi halotot itara tuzudi tia tuleddo itakile itara tia huntu dibo ar hitara tuzudi kinamboleho ules handa tuleddo itakile asede fondashtia 20 tia 30 tia lofeleddo itakile shonnor ব্যবসা করতো ইয়ার পরে যাইরে কেচুতো ট্যাবলেট খারিলই ট্যাবলেটিং বেচিতো.
With ARSA now acting more like a mafia, it started to lose support amongst the Rohingya.
এখন কিছু কিছু জায়গার মাঝে টিয়া তোলা বন্ধ করে ফেলে কিছু পাবলিক কুলে তো যেত মাঝে পাবলিকে যেত মাঝে টিয়া তোলা বন্ধ করছে আর সাইয়ে শিশিয়ানরে বরদাস্ত নগরী ইতারারা আইয়ের দিন বদিন হামলা করের গুলি করের অপহরণ করের খুন খারাপি করের.
After one camp leader refused to cooperate with ARSA, Ahmed was given this order.
ইতারা তোমরা এবারে তুলিবি তুলিয়ের ফরনাল জায়গার লো যাই মারি দিবি কিন্তু হনলেপটিনের গাড্ডার লো যাই ফেলাই দিবি.
In fact, Ahmed was given multiple orders to kill his fellow Rohingya. He refused them all and left the organization. But the murders have continued. More than 300 Rohingya refugees have been killed in the last 5 years. Like Mohib, many of them were community leaders and activists who who oppose the gang's activities. The Bangladeshi government allows UNHCR to run one secure camp where a limited number of refugees can live under guard. UNHCR has also resettled a handful of vulnerable Rohingya to third countries, though few foreign governments participate in this program. Yet we've verified at least 4 other cases where Rohingya community leaders with credible death threats against them were murdered or attacked after their appeals to UNHCR went unanswered. It's a story we hear again and again. We've also been told that they're failing to protect women who challenge the gang's conservative views on gender. We're going to call this woman Rashida. She was working as a translator for international NGOs when she started to receive death threats.
Yes, ini sarta acha করছিলাম নাম্বার 1 হলে একটা সুস্থ জীবন বা শান্তিপূর্ণ জীবন ইয়ান চাইলাম আর নাম্বার 1.
Most of the threats were delivered via audio message, but members of her family were also physically harassed. This is a photo of her brother after a gang beating in October 2022. Rashida says she met with UNHCR 3 times requesting protection, but was offered no support. A few months later, her brother was kidnapped and a ransom demanded.
Abata harate dina bari to tarar kesuno hoy kono lakte dunna bridge ko deregi tara আসলে টোটাল 10-12 জন হইব আর 3 জনে এক জায়গা লগে গয় আর 4 জনে আর বাইনা তার লগে গয় আর 3 জন আর গিয়া আছে আর বাইরে ছোট বাইরে লগে গয় তারপরে যায়রা আর গিয়া করছে তারপর আর বাইনারি করছে.
Upon her release, Rashida went straight to the doctor and kept the medical record as evidence of the assault. She says she presented this document to UNHCR and once again asked to be relocated somewhere safe. It's illegal for Rohingya refugees to privately rent accommodation outside the camps, but fearing for her life, Rashida felt she had no choice. She continued to visit UNHCR offices, requesting that her family be formally relocated to a safer location. 6 months later, she was attacked again.
Tara ekon Bangali Rohingya halibri gor hode era local gor Bangladeshi gor yana mara ar গলায় তার আরে এড়ে গিয়া গুজি গুজি তারা শিয়াল লইরে আরে বান্ধিল তারপর আরে লাঠি লইরে আঘাত দিল এবং মারজিল পুরা বডির মধ্যে.
The kidnappers sent a video of Rashida's limp body to her family with more threats.
তো আই যদি কেসু যদি হইতো গিয়া আর যদি মরা যদি হইতো আই ইনিসারে দাবি করতাম কারণ হলে শুরুও হলতে ফোন হতে ন ফোনে কেসু ন করে
Rashida showed us her medical records from the day after this alleged attack. The doctor's notes are consistent with her description of what took place. We've found a UNHCR worker who's keen to expose the failings within the organization. As a member of the UNHCR Protection Unit field team, he's often the first person a refugee contacts when they're getting threats from the gangs. For years, he's been referring these cases to his Bangladeshi managers.
মানে আই নিজের প্রোডাকশন অনেক মানুষের প্রোডাকশন বেশি হোম দেখি একের যারা আছে তারা কিছু মানে আসলে হুমিন হিসাবে বিহেভিয়ার করে একের যারা আছে তারা হুমিন হিসাবে বিহেভিয়ার না করে আমি সলিউশন আর শেষের বাইরে করে দাঁড়িয়ে তোলা গিয়ে যদি আইব প্রোটেকশন ওই বাদে যদি প্রোটেকশন ভলান্টিয়ার বাদে যদি মিসবিহেভ করে দইলে উইতার লেখি করি হন্ডিরা করি
UNHCR says this violates their code of conduct and that they will investigate.
তো আই ইডিসিআর প্রোটেকশন পোকাল ওক মানে হেড লেভেল যারা তারা প্রচুর ওয়ান দিতে তারা যারা পে লেভেল মা হাত তারা আন্ডার ফুল হন লাগা ভালো আর হিন্দিলে দিতে মানে প্রোটেকশন মানে ফুসকাট করে রাখি যদি হনকাম প্রোটেকশন দিনা বাদ দিনা তো প্রোটেকশনের কি হলো
UNHCR is not responsible for maintaining security in the camps. That falls upon the Bangladeshi government. We've been invited along with their armed police battalion as they search for gang members in the camps. They stop after an hour because it's raining, having made no arrests.
ক্যাম্প থেকে আমার পুলো পয়েন্টে মাত্র রিপোর্ট করেছি গতকাল 3 জন রোহিঙ্গাকে হত্যা করা হয়েছে আরসা মেম্বার মুন্না গ্রুপ আর নবিউশন গ্রুপের দ্বারা
Back in the camps, there's been another killing. We're following Rohingya journalist and YouTuber Saiful Arakani as he goes to investigate. Saiful's journalism has made him a target, so he's got to be quick. Informants could tell the gangs that he's here. 10 minutes later, he's on his way back to an apartment outside the camps that he's renting for his own safety.
এডাগুতো হুকুমত আইবো আডাগুতো ডাহাইত আইবো আডাগুতো ট্রাফিকার আইবো প্রত্যেকখান ডরক লয়রে যদি আমি একটা যদি এখন এগেইনস্ট তাও একটা কিছু কথা বলে দেন আমাকে সবাই হত্যা করার জন্য আমাকে ঘুরেফেরা করে
After receiving death threats, Saiful contacted UNHCR asking for protection. These are just a few of the emails he sent, which went unanswered for a year.
On 16 October 2021, sir, today the terror has called and threatened to kill me. On 18 May 2022, sir, we are in fear and danger from all sides because on 24 August 2022, I want to draw your kind of attention to the situation of me and my family members, sir.
Eventually, UNHCR did respond and moved Saiful to a new shelter in an extension to Camp 4. This is not their secure camp and is in fact an area of Kutupalong where ARSA is known to have a major presence.
গলায় কে ভাই মরে গিয়ে দিঙ্গি হেদে রাতে আর দেখতে পারো হন আর ডলা গাইরে অলমিকে গুলি ফায়ার করছে এই কোলে ক্যাম্পন অনেকটা গ্রুপ করে যায় ডরা গিয়ে ইউনিশারও জানাইবার ইউনিশার আরো থ্রেট কল করছে বলতে কি তুই নাটক ন করিস না আরো ট্র্যাক কল করছে
We've independently verified gang activity in Camp 4 extension at that time. And Saiful says he secretly recorded this video of security guards confirming the presence of gunmen in the camp. In an email seen by the BBC, UNHCR denied any gang activity and said Saiful was spreading false information.
যে বিটিআরসি আবার পরবর্তীতে আরে বানাই ওরে এটা কিছু নয় হয় কি গজে ইউনিশার আবার তার লজায় রে ইয়াকল করি ফেলে আর মারি ওরে আতো টিপসাইল লইয়ে পুলিশে আরে হরে কিছু নয় হয় রে
According to Eva Buzo, UNHCR has downplayed the threat posed by gangs at the request of the Bangladeshi government, who also put restrictions on their work. This is something the Bangladeshi government has previously denied.
The issue with UNHCR is that they say that they're the ones with the mandate to protect refugees, but they are just playing second fiddle to whatever the host country is saying. That's not what we need for the UN Refugee Protection Agency. We need an agency that says we stand for the protection of refugees, and if we cannot fulfill our mandate, then we will leave.
We asked UNHCR's Deputy Director in Asia and the Pacific, Ellen Hansen, whether her organisation is fulfilling its remit to protect refugees.
It's sometimes challenging to meet what might be legitimate expectations of refugees. And, frankly, funding has been reducing steadily for the last 3 years. So I think it's a wake-up call for us. It's also a wake-up call for the international community but this extremely vulnerable population, which is, really striking.
Gang violence is now worse than ever. Earlier this year, an old militant group called the Rohingya Solidarity Organization resurfaced. It attacked an ARSA base, and the two groups are now engaged in open warfare within the camps, with reprisal killings happening on a weekly basis. The dire conditions mean thousands are now risking their lives with human traffickers in order to escape the camps in Bangladesh. A few weeks ago, gang members shot Tahir's nephew, Zahid. He survived, but he's decided to leave Bangladesh. Tahir could not leave because of his injuries, and he's still getting constant death threats. A few months ago, someone entered his shelter in the night and tried to shoot him with these bullets. Until now, Zahid has been the one protecting Tahir and his family within the camps.
Good boy.
Now alone, Tahir fears he'll be next.